This 4-year-old beggar girl is buried up to her neck as punishment, but a millionaire passing by hears the screams and something shocking happens. Comment what you think will happen. Your opinion is very important, and subscribe to my channel to support my work. Your help is very important. The screams slice through the warm morning air of rural Pennsylvania like a rusty blade. Theodore Teddy Vasconcelos stopped on the dirt road, his breath forming small clouds in the cool June air. At 52, he was used to the sounds of the big city, the constant hum of New York City, but this specific sound, a desperate, almost animalistic cry, made something churn in his stomach. It was his first morning back in Harmony Creek after 15 years away. The small town in Pennsylvania seemed smaller than in his memories, the brick streets narrower, the clapboard houses more faded. He had only returned to settle the estate of his mother, Mrs. Connie, who had passed away 3 months ago. A quick visit, he had thought, sign papers, sell the house, and return to his organized and predictable life in New York. The sound echoed again, coming from a vacant lot beside the road leading to the town cemetery. Teddy hesitated. His controlled and methodical nature told him to keep walking, not to get involved. After decades building his fortune with a chain of hardware stores, he had learned that other people's problems usually brought unwanted complications. But something in that cry struck a sensitive chord he thought he had severed long ago. He pushed aside the branches of a scrub oak tree, blocking the entrance to the lot, and saw the scene that would change his life forever. In the middle of the space covered in tall grass and the characteristic red clay of the region, a little girl was buried up to her neck. Only her head appeared above the ground, her brown hair plastered to her dirty face with tears and mud. "Help me," she sobbed when she saw him, her blue eyes reflecting a terror that no child should know. "Please, get me out of here." Teddy rushed to her, kneeling in the damp earth. His hands, used only to shaking hands in corporate meetings, began to dig desperately around the small figure. The earth was compacted, as if someone had deliberately stomped it down to make escape more difficult. "How did you get here?" he asked, removing handfuls of red dirt. "Grandma Doris said I need to learn," the girl answered between sobs, "that a little girl who steals bread deserves to be buried to think about what she did." The words hit Teddy like a slap. As he freed the child's thin arms, he could see the purple marks on her wrists, evidence that this wasn't the first physical punishment she had received. "What's your name?" he asked softly, helping her completely out of the makeshift hole. "Clara," she said, wiping her nose with the back of her dirty hand. "Clara Johnson. I'm 6 years old." Teddy took off his blazer and wrapped it around the girl, who was trembling not only from cold, but from fear. She was too small for her age, thin in a way that suggested chronic malnutrition. Her clothes were torn and dirty, and there was a sadness in her eyes that contrasted painfully with the innocence that should exist there. "Where do you live, Clara?" he asked, looking around to make sure whoever had done this to her wasn't nearby. "In the yellow house near the church," she replied, pointing vaguely in the direction of downtown. "With Grandma Doris. Mom and Dad went to heaven when I was little." Teddy's heart clenched. There was something in the way she spoke, in the precocious maturity of her words, that revealed a child who had grown up too fast, forced by circumstances to understand things she shouldn't yet comprehend. "Why did you steal bread?" he asked, not in a tone of judgment, but trying to understand. Clara lowered her eyes, ashamed. "Grandma Doris forgot to give me breakfast again. She said she didn't have money for food, but I saw her buying that drink that makes her mean. My tummy hurt really bad." Teddy clenched his fists. The anger he felt wasn't directed at the girl, but at the whole situation. How could a 6-year-old child be punished so cruelly for trying to satisfy her hunger? "I'm going to take you home," he said, picking Clara up in his arms. She was too light, her bones almost visible through her pale skin. "No," she said, clinging to his blazer. "Grandma Doris will be even angrier if she finds out someone took me out of there. She said I had to stay until the sun was high up." Teddy looked at the sky. It was only 8 in the morning. This child had spent the entire night buried in the cold earth, alone and afraid. "She won't know," he promised. "I'll drop you off near your house and leave. But first, how about we get some breakfast?" Clara's eyes lit up for the first time since he had found her. "Can I really?" "You sure can." As they walked toward town, Teddy felt a strange weight in his chest. He had spent 15 years running away from Harmony Creek, from his family responsibilities, building a life where he didn't have to worry about anyone but himself. His methodical and controlled personality had served him well in business, allowing him to accumulate a considerable fortune. But now, carrying that fragile girl in his arms, he felt as if all the certainties he had built about himself were being questioned. At Mrs. Mabel's diner, in the center of town, he ordered toast with butter, hot chocolate, and fruit for Clara. She ate with a voracity that broke his heart, as if she didn't know when her next meal would be. "Thank you, mister," she said when she finished, her blue eyes shining with gratitude. "You're very good. Like the angels Mama told me about." Teddy felt something stir in his chest, an emotion he had kept buried for years. "You're welcome, Clara." When he left her near the yellow house she had indicated, he discreetly observed the building. It was a simple house with peeling paint and a weed-filled yard. Through the window, he could see an elderly woman sitting in front of the television, a bottle on the table beside her. Clara waved to him before entering the back door, and Teddy remained there for a few minutes, fighting a feeling he couldn't identify. There was something wrong with that whole situation, something that stirred protective instincts he thought he had lost long ago. As he walked away, a single certainty took shape in his mind. He couldn't simply ignore what he had witnessed. As much as he tried to maintain his organized and predictable life, Clara had planted a seed of responsibility in his heart that he knew would grow, whether he wanted it to or not. Teddy spent the rest of the day trying to focus on the estate documents, but the image of Clara buried in the red earth wouldn't leave his mind. He was in the office of the family lawyer, Mr. Abernathy, a 60-year-old man who knew all of Harmony Creek's secrets, when he finally succumbed to the curiosity that consumed him. "Mr. Abernathy, are you familiar with the Johnson family? A girl named Clara who lives with her grandmother?" The lawyer frowned, adjusting his glasses on his nose. "I am. Complicated situation, that one. The girl lost her parents 2 years ago in a work accident. The father, Johnny Johnson, fell from scaffolding on a construction site in Pittsburgh. The mother, poor Lucy, couldn't cope with the loss and, well, she passed away too a few months later. And the grandmother takes care of her alone. Doris Johnson, retired elementary school teacher, always been a difficult woman, but after she lost her son, the alcohol took over. The girl is often left alone." Mr. Abernathy lowered his voice. "There have been some complaints from neighbors, but nothing official. You know how it is in a small town. People prefer not to get involved." Teddy felt a pang in his chest. What kind of complaints? Child crying in the middle of the night, shouting. Once they saw the girl on the street in the middle of the night, barefoot. But Doris always had influence in town, was a teacher to many important people. The authorities turn a blind eye. That night Teddy couldn't sleep in the room of his old house. The furniture was covered in white sheets, creating ghosts of the past he had tried to forget. He got up and went to the kitchen, where he made a strong coffee. Through the window, he could see the lights of the town, including the yellow house where Clara slept, or tried to sleep. Around 2 in the morning, he decided to take a walk through the deserted streets of Harmony Creek. The cool June air cut his face as he passed through the brick streets. Without quite realizing how, his steps led him to the yellow house. That's when he heard it again, a low, muffled cry coming from the backyard. Teddy approached the dilapidated wooden fence and peered through a crack. Clara was sitting on the dirt floor, hugging her knees, rocking back and forth. Even in the dark he could see that she was trembling. "Clara, he called softly. The girl raised her head, startled. When she recognized him, her eyes filled with tears of relief. "Bread man," she whispered, approaching the fence. "You came back. Why are you out here? It's cold. Grandma Doris said I can't come in until morning. She got mad because the neighbor told her she saw me eating toast at the diner today." Teddy's blood boiled. "You've been out here since when?" "Since it got dark, but it's okay. I tell myself stories so I'm not scared." Teddy looked around and, without hesitating, jumped over the low fence. Clara recoiled a little, but when he took off his coat and wrapped it around her small shoulders, she leaned into him like a puppy seeking warmth. "What stories do you tell?" he asked, sitting on the ground beside her. "Stories about a place where children can eat when they're hungry and sleep in warm beds, where there's a family that isn't angry all the time." She picked up a broken piece of pottery from the ground. "This is the daddy in the story. And this," she picked up another piece, "is the mama. They take care of the little girl and never leave her hungry or cold." Teddy watched the shards of tile and pottery scattered around the yard. Clara had created a whole world there, transforming trash into characters in her fantasies of a better life. "It's a beautiful story," he said, feeling his throat tighten. "Do you want to meet more characters?" "I have many." For the next hour, Clara showed her collection of dolls made of pieces of pottery, each with an elaborate story. Teddy was amazed by the girl's creativity and intelligence, by her ability to create beauty and hope, even in the midst of abandonment. "Clara, can I ask you a question?" "Yes." "Would you like someone to help you and your grandmother? With food, with—" "Grandma Doris says we don't need help from anyone. That asking for help is for weak people." Clara lowered her eyes. "But sometimes I dream that someone good like you appears and stays forever." Teddy's heart broke a little more. "Listen, I'm going to leave some things on your front porch. Food, blankets. Don't tell your grandmother you saw me, okay? It will be our secret." Clara's eyes sparkled. "Like in the movies? A special secret?" "Exactly." As the first lights of dawn began to clear the sky, Teddy helped Clara hide behind the house, where she usually stayed until Doris woke up, and allowed her to come inside. Before leaving, he left his company business card under a stone. "If you need something very urgent, ask someone to call this number, okay?" Clara nodded, keeping the card as if it were a treasure. The next morning, Teddy went to the biggest supermarket in Harmony Creek and filled 2 carts with food, hygiene products, blankets, and children's clothes. The cashier, a lady familiar with the family, looked curiously at the quantity of items. "A lot of shopping, Teddy. Are you throwing a party?" "Something like that," he replied vaguely. Around 10 in the morning, when he was sure Doris had already left for work, Mr. Abernathy had mentioned that she cleaned some houses. Teddy discreetly left the bags on the porch of the yellow house. Hidden behind a tree on the corner, he watched Clara discover the packages. The joy on the girl's face was worth every penny spent. She looked around, looking for her mysterious benefactor, and then waved to the air, whispering "thank you" to the wind. During the following days, Teddy established a routine. In the morning, he resolved estate matters. In the afternoon, he discreetly watched the yellow house from afar. At night, when Doris slept drunkenly, he left supplies on the porch or talked to Clara through the fence in the backyard. It was during one of these nightly conversations that Clara said something that made him question everything again. "You know, bread man, there's something strange." "What is it?" "Grandma Doris sometimes looks at me and gets very angry. She says I have the face of someone who destroyed her life, that because of me she lost everything good she had. That's not true, Clara. You're not to blame for anything." "I know, but yesterday she was looking at some old photos and crying. When she saw me, she shouted that I was exactly like him. I don't know who he is." Teddy felt a chill down his spine. "What pictures were they?" "Photos from when she was a teacher. There was one that she held tighter of a class of small children. She pointed to a boy, and said he was an ungrateful person who abandoned everyone. Teddy's heart stopped for a moment. Could Doris have been one of his old teachers? Would she recognize him if she saw him? "Clara, do you remember what this boy in the photo looked like? Dark hair, big smile. He was in front of the class, as if he were important." She tilted her head. "Why do you want to know?" Before Teddy could answer, the light in the living room of the house turned on. Doris had woken up. "Quick, hide," he whispered. Clara ran to the back of the house, and Teddy hurried away. But as he walked through the silent streets back home, a terrible certainty grew in his chest. Doris Johnson wasn't just Clara's negligent grandmother. She was Mrs. Johnson, his second-grade teacher, the woman he had admired as a child for her dedication and care, and now she had become the nightmare of an innocent child. The confirmation came the next morning unexpectedly. Teddy was at the county clerk's office sorting out the estate paperwork when the clerk, Mrs. Betty, recognized his name on the certificate. "Theodore Vasconcelos. That name is familiar. Didn't you go to Harmony Creek Elementary School?" "I did, for the first few years." "Oh, then you were a student of Mrs. Doris Johnson. She always talked about her former students. A dedicated teacher, that one. It's a shame about her problems with drinking later on." Teddy's world seemed to spin. "Mrs. Doris Johnson was indeed my teacher." "Yes, she has an incredible memory for faces and names. I bet if she met you on the street she'd still recognize you." Teddy left the clerk's office with shaky legs. The woman who was mistreating Clara was the same woman who had been a mother figure to him at school, who praised his essays, who believed in his potential when not even his own family did. How had Mrs. Johnson transformed into that bitter and cruel being? That afternoon, he decided to do something he had been putting off: visit the cemetery where his mother was buried. He needed mental clarity, and he always found peace among the old graves of Harmony Creek, where the town's traditional families rested under marble headstones and wrought iron crosses. He was kneeling before Mrs. Connie's grave, cleaning the dry leaves that had accumulated, when he heard footsteps behind him. "Theodore Vasconcelos." The voice was firm, familiar, but charged with a harshness he didn't remember. He turned slowly and met the brown eyes of Hope Moretti, the woman he had loved in his youth and abandoned when he left Harmony Creek in search of success. She was different, more mature, obviously, but there was something in her face that spoke of deep suffering. Her brown hair now had grey strands, and her hands held a folder of documents with excessive force. "Hope," he said, rising slowly, "I didn't expect to find you here." "I imagine not. 15 years is a long time to remember the people who stayed behind." The coldness in her voice hit him like a slap. "Hope, I didn't come here to hear excuses, Teddy. I came because I need to talk to you about a child, Clara Johnson." Teddy's heart raced. "What do you have to do with Clara?" "I'm a social worker with the county now. I came back from Harrisburg last week after finishing a specialization, and one of the first reports I received was about child abuse." "Report?" "Anonymous. Someone called reporting that they saw a child buried in a vacant lot as a form of punishment. That's a crime, Teddy. Child abuse, neglect, psychological torture." Teddy swallowed hard. He hadn't made the report, but someone else had witnessed the scene, or something similar. "And what are you going to do?" "My job. Investigate, document, protect the child." Hope studied him with piercing eyes. "The question is, what are you doing here? Small town, everyone knows you're back, and everyone knows you've become rich in New York City." "I came to settle my mother's estate." "Just that?" Teddy hesitated. There was something in Hope's tone that suggested she knew more than she was saying. "Hope, if you knew a child was in a dangerous situation, what would you do?" "Everything in my power to protect her, even if it meant confronting powerful people, even if it stirred up old wounds." She paused. "Why are you asking?" "Curiosity." "Lies. You were never good at lying, Teddy. Your eyes always gave you away." At that moment, An elderly woman passed them carrying flowers for a nearby grave. It was Doris Johnson, and she looked directly at Teddy. Her eyes widened for a second, then narrowed into an expression of recognition and something that looked like hatred. "Theodore Vasconcelos," Doris said, approaching slowly. "The boy who became important." "Mrs. Johnson," he greeted her respectfully, but his heart was beating erratically. 15 years. 15 years since you ran away from here like a coward, leaving your sick mother and your brother to carry the weight of the family alone. Hope watched the interaction with growing interest. "Mrs. Johnson, don't come to me with excuses. You were my favorite student, you know. Intelligent, determined. I believed in you when no one else did, and you paid me by disappearing into the world, forgetting where you came from." The words were like stabs. Teddy knew she was right. He had run away, yes. He had abandoned responsibilities, people who were counting on him. "I know I made mistakes." "Mistakes?" Doris laughed bitterly. "You destroyed families, boy. Your mother died waiting for you to come back. Your brother Mikey had to give up his own dreams to take care of her." Hope took a step forward. "Mrs. Johnson, perhaps we can talk about this at another time. I needed to talk to you about your granddaughter." Doris's face closed immediately. "My granddaughter is fine. I don't need anyone's interference. I received a report. False report. Clara is a difficult child, rebellious. Sometimes I need to be firm with her, but it's for her own good. To prepare her for the hard life that awaits her. Burying a child in the ground isn't being firm, Mrs. Johnson. It's torture." Doris looked from Hope to Teddy, and something dangerous flashed in her eyes. "Interesting how certain people appear in Harmony Creek at the same time. Don't you think, Teddy?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "You don't know? A child who has never had visitors suddenly starts receiving mysterious gifts, food, clothes, blankets. And in the same week the rich boy who abandoned the town comes home." Teddy's blood ran cold. Doris knew. Somehow she had discovered that he was helping Clara. "Mrs. Johnson," Hope said firmly, "I need to schedule an official visit to your home to assess the child's living conditions. Do what you want, but know that I know the two of you very well. And I know exactly what you're capable of." Doris walked away, but before disappearing completely from sight, she turned once more to Teddy. "Be careful of good Samaritans, Hope. Sometimes they have motivations they don't even know themselves." When they were alone again, Hope turned to Teddy with an indecipherable expression. "Is there something you need to tell me?" "Hope, don't lie to me. Is Doris right? Are you helping the girl?" Teddy took a deep breath. "If I were, would it be wrong? It depends on the motives. And what would be the wrong motives?" Hope studied him for a long moment. "Guilt, attempting to buy forgiveness for past mistakes, needing to feel important." Every word was true, and Teddy knew it. But there was something more, something he himself was discovering. And what would be the right motives? Genuine love. A real desire to protect an innocent child. The ability to commit for real, not just until the situation becomes inconvenient. At that moment, as if fate wanted to test his intentions, Hope's cell phone rang. She answered quickly, and Teddy could hear a frantic voice on the other end. "Hope, you need to get here urgently. It's about Clara Johnson. Something serious has happened." Hope's face paled. "I'm coming." She hung up and looked at Teddy. "Clara is in the hospital. Someone found her injured in the vacant lot again." Teddy felt the world collapse. "I'm going with you." "Teddy, please." Hope hesitated, then nodded. As they ran to her car, a single question echoed in Teddy's mind. What if he was too late to save the girl who had begun to save him? The Harmony Creek Municipal Hospital smelled of disinfectant and had that cold lighting that made everything seem more serious than it really was. Teddy followed Hope through the narrow corridors, his heart beating so hard he was sure she could hear it. "Where is the girl who was brought in a little while ago?" Hope asked the receptionist. Emergency room. Dr. Miller is taking care of her. Who are you? I'm the social worker responsible for the case, Hope said, showing her credentials. And he is a friend of the family, Teddy completed quickly. They were directed to a small waiting room where a nurse informed them that Clara was being examined. Dr. Miller would come out to speak with them soon. How was she found? Teddy asked, trying to control his anxiety. According to the call I received, a resident passing through the vacant lot in the morning heard crying. He found Clara lying next to a hole with injuries to her arm and leg. What kind of injuries? I don't know yet. Let's wait for the doctor. Teddy got up and started pacing. His mind couldn't stop imagining terrible scenarios. What if Doris had found out about his help and decided to punish Clara even more cruelly? What if the girl had hurt herself trying to run away from home? Teddy, sit down. You're making me nervous. Sorry. He sat down, but his hands were shaking. Hope, can I ask you a question? Sure. Why did you come back to Harmony Creek? You always dreamed of working in big cities, making a difference on a national scale. Hope was quiet for a moment, looking at her own hands. People change, Teddy. Priorities change. But what made you change? Before she could answer, the door opened and Dr. Miller entered. He was a middle-aged man, tired-looking, who had clearly seen many difficult situations. Are you here for Clara Johnson? Yes, said Hope. How is she? Physically, she'll be fine. Scrapes on her right arm and a contusion on her left leg. Nothing serious, but... He paused, looking from Hope to Teddy. There are other worrying things. What kind of things? The child is visibly malnourished. Weight far below normal for her age. And when I asked how she got hurt, she said she was playing treasure hunt and fell into the hole she had dug herself. Teddy frowned. Playing treasure hunt? It's strange, isn't it? A 6-year-old child digging holes alone in a vacant lot in the middle of the night. When I asked why she was there so early, she said she leaves home when she's scared. Scared of what? Hope asked, although everyone there already knew the answer. She didn't want to talk, but when they touched on the subject of her grandmother, she became visibly agitated. Can we see her? Teddy asked. Dr. Miller looked at Hope. You're the social worker responsible? Yes. Then you can. But, he looked at Teddy, who exactly are you? Hope hesitated, then said, he knows the child's situation. He can help. All right. But the child is still under observation. 5 minutes only. When they entered the room, Teddy felt his heart break. Clara was in a hospital bed that seemed to swallow her small body. Her right arm was bandaged, and there was a bandage on her leg. But what shocked him most was the expression in her eyes, not of physical pain, but of a deep sadness that no child should carry. Clara, Hope called softly. The girl turned her head, and when she saw Teddy, her eyes lit up slightly. Breadman, you came to see me. Of course I came. How are you feeling? Hurting a little, but it's already better. She looked at Hope with curiosity. Who's the pretty lady? My name is Hope. I'm a social worker. I came to talk to you about how you are at home. Clara's face closed immediately. I don't want to talk about home. Why not, honey? Because when people ask about home, then Grandma Doris gets angrier at me. Teddy approached the bed. Clara, can you tell me how you got hurt? I won't tell your grandmother, I promise. Clara looked at him trustingly. I was looking for treasures in the lot. What kind of treasures? Pretty pieces of pottery to make new dolls. But it was dark, and I dug a hole too deep. When I tried to get out, I slipped and hit my arm on a rock. Why were you there in the middle of the night? Clara lowered her eyes. Grandma Doris brought a friend home last night. They were drinking and making noise. When they drink, she gets very angry. And then you left home. She always tells me to disappear when she has visitors. That children bother adult conversations. Hope was writing everything down in a notebook, her face growing more serious with each revelation. Clara, she said carefully, has your grandmother ever hurt you? The girl looked nervously at the door. as if Doris could appear at any moment. "I can't talk about that." "Why?" "Because she said that if I tell lies about her to strangers, the punishment will be worse than being buried." Teddy's blood ran cold. "Worse how?" "She said she'll send me to a place where disobedient girls stay forever and never see the light of day again." Hope and Teddy exchanged loaded glances. This wasn't just physical abuse, it was systematic psychological terrorism. "Clara," Teddy said softly, "what if I told you there was a place where you could be safe, where no one would hurt you or scare you?" The girl's eyes filled with hope and fear at the same time. "Is there really?" "There is. But you would have to trust us." At that moment, the door to the room opened abruptly. Doris Johnson entered like a hurricane, her eyes red with alcohol and anger. "What are you doing here? Who gave you permission to talk to my granddaughter?" "Mrs. Johnson," Hope said, standing up, "I'm a social worker. I have legal authorization to—" "Authorization? This girl is my responsibility." "And you," she pointed to Teddy, "have no right to be here." Clara cowered in bed, visibly terrified by her grandmother's presence. "Grandma, I didn't say anything wrong," she began. "Shut your mouth," Doris shouted. "You shouldn't be playing in that lot. How many times have I told you not to leave the house without permission?" "But you told me to disappear when Mr. Davis came over." "I told you to shut your mouth." Doris's scream echoed through the room. Clara began to cry, and the monitors measuring her vital signs began to beep faster. "Mrs. Johnson, you need to calm down," Hope said firmly. "You're scaring the child." "Scaring? I'm educating. This girl is just like her father, stubborn, disobedient, always causing trouble." "The problem here isn't the child," Teddy said, no longer able to contain himself. Doris turned to him with utter fury. "And you, who do you think you are? Disappeared for 15 years from your own family's life, abandoned your sick mother, and now you want to play the child savior?" "Mrs. Johnson, don't come at me with that. You think I don't know what you're doing. You think I'm an idiot." Hope looked confusedly from one to the other. "What are you talking about?" Doris smiled maliciously. "Didn't he tell you, Hope? Didn't he tell you that he's the father of your daughter? That he got you pregnant and fled the town like a coward?" The silence that followed was deafening. Hope turned as pale as the wall, looking at Teddy with an expression of shock and betrayal that he would never forget. "Hope," he began. "Is it true?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Teddy opened and closed his mouth several times, but no words came out. The truth that Doris had revealed was like a bomb that exploded in the middle of the room, destroying any chance of explanation or redemption. The silence in the hospital room was broken only by the sound of Clara's monitors and the muffled sobs of the girl, who didn't understand why the adults were looking at each other in such a frightening way. Hope leaned against the wall, as if her legs could no longer support her. Her eyes fixed on Teddy with a mixture of pain and disbelief that cut his heart in two. "Hope," he tried again. "No," she said, raising her hand for him to stop. "Not now. Not here." Doris watched the scene with a cruel satisfaction on her face. Ah, what a beautiful reunion! The father who never knew he was a father, and the mother who lost her daughter because she was abandoned. "Enough!" Teddy shouted, completely losing control. "You have no right to talk like that. You have no right to use people's pain as a weapon. I have no right. And you have the right to play savior after shattering lives." Clara began to cry louder, frightened by the shouting. Dr. Miller appeared at the door, alerted by the noise. "What's going on here?" "You're disturbing the patient." "Doctor," said Hope, trying to regain her professional composure, "I need to speak with you about the protection measures for this child." "And I need to take my granddaughter home," said Doris, walking towards Clara's bed. "No," said Dr. Miller firmly. "The child will remain under observation until tomorrow. And considering what I just witnessed, perhaps it's best to limit the visits." "Limit? This girl is my granddaughter." "My responsibility. And how is that responsibility being exercised? asked the doctor, looking at Clara cowering in bed. Because what I see is a child terrified in the presence of her own guardian. Doris opened her mouth to protest, but Hope stepped forward. Dr. Miller, please, I need a few minutes alone with the child. It's urgent. The doctor looked at everyone present. Very well, but I want all of you out of this room now. The social worker can stay for 5 minutes, and then I want total silence. Teddy tried to approach Clara before leaving, but she looked at him with confusion. Breadman, why is everyone shouting? Did I do something wrong? No, honey, you didn't do anything wrong. Adults sometimes get confused, but it's going to be okay. Promise? Teddy looked at Hope, then at Doris, and finally back at Clara. I promise I'm going to do everything I can to make you okay. In the hospital corridor, Doris turned to Teddy with venom in her eyes. You haven't learned anything, have you? You still want to be the hero of the story. What do you want from me, Mrs. Johnson? Justice. 15 years waiting to see you pay for what you did. I was a kid of 20. I didn't even know Hope was pregnant. Oh, you didn't know? And why didn't you know? Because you ran away before even giving her a chance to tell you. Teddy ran his hands over his face, exhausted. You're right. I ran away. I was a coward. But that doesn't justify what you're doing to Clara. Clara is learning that life is hard, that she can't count on anyone, especially on men who make promises and then disappear. She's 6 years old, and I was 50 when you broke my heart. The confession came out like a slap. Teddy looked at her confused. What do you mean? You don't think I fell in love with you when you were my student, an intelligent, determined boy who reminded me of the son I never had? You were my pride, Teddy, my greatest achievement as a teacher. The revelation was disturbing. Mrs. Johnson, I was a child. You were, and I held back, obviously. But when you grew up, when you became a handsome and ambitious young man, I dreamed that maybe you would see in me more than an old teacher. Teddy felt sick. Mrs. Johnson, but you chose Hope, the young and pretty girl, and when she got pregnant, instead of taking responsibility, you ran away. You left her alone, you left your sick mother, you left your brother, and you left me with a broken heart once again. You're confusing things. I never gave me hope. Never flirted with me when you came back to visit me after you graduated? Teddy tried to remember. He had indeed visited Mrs. Johnson a few times when he came back from New York City in his early years of college. She always received him with special affection, prepared coffee, asked about his dating life. I thought you were like a second mother to me, and I thought you were interested in something more when you stopped visiting me after you started dating Hope. The door to the room opened, and Hope came out, her face pale and her eyes red. How is she? Teddy asked. Terrified, malnourished, and completely lost. Hope stared at him. I need to talk to you, alone. Hope, I can explain. Not here, and not now, but I need you to tell me everything. Absolutely everything. Doris laughed softly. What a touching scene! The two lovebirds are finally going to settle the accounts. Mrs. Johnson, Hope said coldly, you are prohibited from seeing Clara unsupervised until further notice. I'm going to ask for a protective order. On what basis? Neglect, psychological abuse, and now I've found out more things talking to her. Clara told me about the nights she spends locked outside the house, about the punishments of going without food, about the friends you bring home who make the girl hide. Doris's face turned red. That girl lies. 6-year-old children don't invent details like the ones she told me, and Dr. Miller confirmed signs of chronic malnutrition. You can't take my granddaughter away from me. I can, and I will. It's my job to protect children in at-risk situations. Doris looked from Hope to Teddy, her eyes shining with an anger that seemed accumulated for decades. You think you're going to stay with her? Form a happy family on top of the suffering you caused? No one is talking about staying with her, Hope said. I'm talking about protecting her. Lies. I saw how you look at her. Two adults who lost a daughter and now want to use an orphaned child to heal their own wounds. The accusation hit both like a well-aimed arrow. It's not like that, Teddy protested. No? Then tell me, Theodore Vasconcelos, if Clara were ugly, if she were a troubled child without those innocent blue eyes and that angelic little face, would you have gotten involved? Silent, right? Because you know it's true. You're using her to feel better about your past. Hope stepped forward. Even if that were true, it would still be better than leaving her with a woman who mistreats her. I don't mistreat her. I prepare her for real life. Burying her in the ground? Letting her starve? What is that preparing her for? To die? At that moment, Dr. Miller appeared again at the door. Sorry to interrupt, but there's something you need to know. I did some additional tests on Clara and discovered something concerning. What is it? The three asked at the same time. The child has signs of severe anemia and chronic dehydration. This doesn't happen overnight. It's months, maybe years of nutritional neglect. Lies, Doris shouted. I always gave her food. In addition, continued the doctor, ignoring the interruption, I found an old scar on her scalp. When I asked how it happened, she said it was when she flew off the roof trying to become a bird. Teddy's blood ran cold. She tried to jump off the roof, apparently, and when I asked why she wanted to become a bird, she said that birds can fly away when they're scared. The silence that followed was heavy as lead. A 6-year-old child had tried to fly to escape the suffering. Doctor, said Hope with a choked voice, what is your medical recommendation? As a doctor, I recommend that this child be immediately removed from any environment that poses a risk to her physical and mental health. Doris staggered as if she had been punched. You're going to pay for this, she whispered. All of you are going to pay dearly for taking away the only thing I had left in life. And with that threat suspended in the air, she left the hospital, leaving behind a wounded child and 2 adults who had just discovered that saving Clara might be more complicated than they imagined. Hope and Teddy met 2 hours later in the central square of Harmony Creek, away from the hospital and the curious eyes that a small town always offered. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink, but neither seemed to notice the beauty of the moment. Teddy arrived first and sat on the bench near the main church, his hands trembling slightly. Hope appeared walking slowly, as if each step cost her an immense effort. Tell me, she said, sitting on the bench next to him, but keeping her distance. Tell me everything from the beginning. Hope, I swear I didn't know. I don't care what you knew or didn't know. I care about what happened. Why did you leave? Teddy took a deep breath. Because I was a coward. Because I was afraid I wouldn't be able to support a family. Because the job offer in New York City seemed to be my only chance to escape poverty. And me? Didn't I deserve to know? You deserved everything. You deserved me to stay, to fight, to grow together with you. But I thought I was doing the right thing, that if I left and became successful, I could come back and give you a better life. Hope laughed bitterly. 15 years later, what better life is this? Hope, about our daughter. Clarissa, she said softly. Her name was Clarissa. The name hit Teddy like a stab. Clarissa. He had a daughter named Clarissa and never knew it. What was she like? Beautiful. Dark hair like yours. Expressive eyes like mine. Intelligent. Curious. Hope's voice faltered. She died at 3 years old. How? Pneumonia. A pneumonia that could have been cured if I had had money for the best treatments, for a private hospital, for... Hope, don't. For what your success in New York City could have paid for, she completed, the tears finally flowing. You want to know the irony? She died in the same year that you founded your second store. I read about you in the newspapers. Young entrepreneur conquers the New York market. Meanwhile, I buried our daughter with borrowed money. Teddy got up from the bench, no longer able to stand still. Hope, if I had known, would you have come back? Would you have abandoned everything to take care of a sick daughter and a girlfriend who had nothing to offer you but problems. Yes, lies. She wiped away the tears. You were always ambitious, Teddy. Always wanted more than Harmony Creek could offer. A family would just be a hindrance. You're wrong. Am I? Then why never came back? Why never tried to look for me? 15 years, Teddy. 15 years. Because I was ashamed. Because the more time passed, the harder it became to admit that I had run away. Because I knew I didn't deserve forgiveness. And you don't. The words were said with a coldness that cut Teddy's heart. He sat down again, defeated. Then why are you telling me this? Why didn't you leave me in ignorance? Because, said Hope, turning to face him, despite everything, Clara needs help. And you have resources that I don't have. Clara? The girl in the hospital. Didn't you notice how she looks like Clarissa? The same blue eyes, the same age our daughter would be if she were alive? Teddy felt the world spin. You think I'm helping Clara because she reminds me of our daughter. I don't think, I'm sure. And if it's true? If it is, does that make my help less valid? It makes it dangerous, because you're not seeing Clara for who she is. You're seeing what you lost, and when the novelty wears off, when you realize she can't cure your guilt, you'll leave again. Teddy was silent for a long moment. And if you're wrong, what if I really changed? Prove it. How? Stay. Not just a few days to settle the estate. Stay for real. Change your life to Harmony Creek. Don't expect Harmony Creek to adapt to your life. That night, Teddy returned to his mother's house, tormented by Hope's words. There was a painful truth in what she said, and he knew it. Was his attraction to Clara really just a way to try to compensate for the daughter he lost without knowing? He was in the kitchen trying to eat something when he heard a noise in the backyard. Through the glass of the door, he saw a small figure moving near the fence that separated his property from the neighboring house. He went out and found Clara trying to climb the fence, still with her arm bandaged from the hospital. Clara, what are you doing here? How did you get out of the hospital? Grandma Doris picked me up. She said the hospital is a place for sick people, and I'm not sick. The girl looked at him with tired eyes. Can I come into your house? It's very cold outside. Of course, but does your grandmother know where you are? She went out with Mr. Davis. She told me to be quiet until she got back, otherwise... Clara didn't finish the sentence. Teddy brought her inside and realized that she was limping slightly because of the injury to her leg. He made hot chocolate and sat with her at the kitchen table. Clara, can I ask you a difficult question? Yes. When you tried to become a bird, why did you want to fly? The girl stirred her hot chocolate thoughtfully. Because when things get really bad, I dream that I'm a little bird. Little birds can go anywhere. They can fly to places where no one yells, where there's always food, where there's a family that loves you. Yeah. She looked at him with her intense blue eyes. Do you have a family, bread man? The question caught him off guard. I used to. But I made some bad choices when I was younger. Bad choices like the ones Grandma Doris makes when she drinks. Different, but yeah. Choices that hurt people I loved. And did you regret it? Very much. Every day. Clara nodded as if she understood perfectly. Grandma Doris sometimes cries when she's drinking. She talks to herself and apologizes to people who aren't there. Like what? She apologizes to Daddy and to a person named Theodore. She says she loved him and that he left. Teddy's heart stopped. She talks about this Theodore. She does. She says he was special, that she dreamed that he was going to come back to take care of her when she got old. But he chose someone else and never came back. The guilt that Teddy carried multiplied. Doris really had fallen in love with him and he had never realized it. Or worse, perhaps he had realized it and ignored it. Clara, would you like to live with a family that treats you well? What family? I don't know yet, but a family where you wouldn't go hungry, wouldn't be punished, where you could play and be happy. The girl's eyes filled with tears. But what if they don't like me later? What if I do something wrong and they send me away? Why do you think you would do something wrong? Because Grandma Doris always says that I'm trouble. That because of me, she lost everything good in her life. Teddy knelt in front of Clara's chair. Listen carefully to what I'm going to tell you. You are not trouble. You are a smart, brave, and special girl, and any family would be lucky to have you. Really, really. At that moment, they heard the front door slam. Doris had returned, and from the shouting that echoed from the house next door, she had discovered that Clara wasn't there. "Clara! Where are you, you little devil?" Clara cowered, the terror returning to her eyes. "She's going to hit me hard if she finds out I came here." "She's not. I'm going to talk to her." "No, please. She gets worse when other people get involved." Teddy was torn between protecting Clara and avoiding making the situation worse. That's when his phone rang. It was Hope. "Teddy, I need to meet you now. I discovered something about Doris that changes everything." "What is it?" "I can't talk on the phone. I'm coming over." "Hope, Clara is here with me. Doris took her from the hospital and—" "What?" "She didn't have authorization to do that. I'm coming now." As Teddy hung up, Clara pulled on his sleeve. "Breadman, I'm scared, very scared." "You don't need to be scared. I'm going to protect you." "You really promise?" "I promise." But as Doris's shouts grew louder and closer, Teddy wondered if he would be able to keep such an important promise, and mainly, if he had the right to make it. Hope arrived at Teddy's house at the exact moment that Doris appeared at the gate, clearly drunk and furious. The meeting of the three adults in the front yard, with Clara hidden behind Teddy, created a tension that seemed to electrify the air of the cold Pennsylvania night. "Where is my granddaughter?" Doris shouted, staggering slightly. "She's safe," replied Teddy, keeping Clara behind him. "Mrs. Johnson," said Hope, approaching with a folder of documents in her hands, "you took Clara from the hospital without medical authorization. That's a serious violation." "I'm her guardian. I can take her wherever I want." "Actually, you can't," said Hope, opening the folder. "I just got an emergency protective order. Clara is under temporary state custody until the situation is resolved." Doris laughed scornfully. "State custody? And who's going to take care of her? You? Your cowardly boyfriend? A temporary foster home will be designated—" "Lies! You've already arranged everything. You want to use my granddaughter to play happy family." Teddy stepped forward. "Mrs. Johnson, this has nothing to do with us. It has to do with Clara's well-being." "Well-being? I raised this girl since she was 2 years old. When her parents died, who was there? Me! When there was no money for food, who sacrificed themselves? Me!" "Sacrificed yourself?" asked Hope, consulting her papers. "Mrs. Johnson, you receive a monthly pension for the work accident that killed Clara's father. $600 a month, specifically for the care of the child." Doris's face paled. "So what? That money barely covers basic expenses. According to my investigations, you use that money to buy alcohol. The neighbors confirmed that they see you at Danny's bar almost every day, spending significant amounts." "That's a lie." "I have receipts, Mrs. Johnson. Danny himself showed me. Just last week, you spent $200 on moonshine." Clara came out from behind Teddy and looked at Doris with a sadness that broke his heart. "Grandma, is it true that Daddy's money was to take care of me?" "Shut up, girl. You don't understand anything about life." "I do," said Clara with a frightening maturity. "I understand that whenever you get angry, it's because you ran out of drinks. And I understand that you hate me because I remind you of Daddy. I don't hate you. Yes, you do. You said yesterday that I should have died with him." The silence that followed was heavy as lead. Hope wrote everything down, and Teddy felt a cold anger growing in his chest. "Mrs. Johnson," said Hope coldly, "in addition to the neglect and mistreatment, we now have verbalized death wishes against the child. That's a crime. You're twisting everything. That girl lies." "6-year-old children don't invent statements like that," replied Teddy. "And even if they did, what would that say about the environment in which she lives?" Doris looked from one to the other, her eyes shining with a mixture of despair and anger. You want to destroy me, don't you? You want to take away the only thing I had left in life." "The only thing you had left?" asked Hope. "Mrs. Johnson, do you see Clara as your property or as a child who needs care? She's my granddaughter, my responsibility, but not your property, and certainly not your emotional punching bag." At that moment, a car pulled up on the street. It was a tall man, tired-looking, who Teddy didn't recognize immediately, but when the man approached, the familiar resemblance became obvious. "Mikey," said Teddy, incredulous. "Hi, brother," replied Mikey Vasconcelos, but his tone had no affection. "I heard you came back." Teddy's younger brother was visibly different from the 24-year-old he had been when they last saw each other. Now 39, Mikey seemed to carry the weight of responsibilities that should never have been his. "What are you doing here?" asked Teddy. "I came to get what's mine, the house, the documents, the part of the inheritance you're trying to steal." "I'm not trying to steal anything." "No? Then why didn't you call me when our mother died? Why did I find out about the funeral from the neighbors?" The accusation hit Teddy like a punch. "Mikey, I tried to contact you." "Lies! You wanted to solve everything alone, your way, as you always did." Hope watched the scene with growing interest, while Clara clung to Teddy's leg, frightened by more shouting. "Mikey," said Doris suddenly, "I'm so glad you arrived. Look what your brother is doing." "He wants to steal my granddaughter." "I'm not trying to steal anyone," protested Teddy. "I'm trying to protect a child." "Protect?" Mikey laughed bitterly. "You don't even know what that word means. Protection is staying, Teddy. It's being present when people need you. I know I made mistakes." "Mistakes? Our mother died calling your name. She spent the last 5 years of her life waiting for you to come back, and you didn't even bother to visit her." "I sent money. Money doesn't replace presence." Mikey's scream echoed through the silent street. Clara began to cry quietly, and Teddy picked her up. "Mikey, please, not in front of the child." "Oh, now you care about the child. Where was that concern when I needed to give up my dreams to take care of our sick mother?" Hope spoke up. "Sorry to interrupt this family reunion, but we have an urgent situation here. Clara needs a safe place to sleep tonight." "She's going to sleep at home with me," insisted Doris. "She's not," said Hope firmly. "I have the protective order." "Then where is she going to stay?" asked Teddy. "Temporarily in the county shelter." "Shelter?" said Clara, clinging tighter to Teddy. "What's a shelter?" "It's a place where children stay when they can't stay with their families," explained Hope gently. "Like an orphanage?" "Similar." Clara's eyes filled with terror. "I don't want to go to the orphanage. Please, can I stay with the bread man?" "Children don't choose where they want to stay," said Doris cruelly. "Children obey." "Mrs. Johnson, you have lost the right to give opinions about the future of this child," said Hope. Mikey watched the whole scene with a confused expression. "Can someone explain to me what's going on here?" "Your brother is trying to play hero," said Doris. "He wants to adopt my granddaughter to impress his ex-girlfriend." "That's not true," protested Teddy. "Isn't it?" asked Mikey. "Then explain it to me, Teddy. Why are you, who never cared about family, suddenly worried about a strange child?" The question was the same that Hope had asked, and Teddy realized that he didn't have a simple answer. "Because she needs help," he said finally. "And you think you're the right person to help? You, who abandoned your own family?" "Mikey, I can change." "Can you? Or are you going to do as you always did? Are you going to take care of her until you get tired, until something more interesting appears in New York City, and then you're going to leave again?" Clara looked at Teddy with an expression of doubt that he had never seen before. "Bread man, are you going to leave?" "No, Clara, I'm not going to leave." "Promise?" Teddy looked at Hope, at Mikey, at Doris, and finally at the girl in his arms. "I promise." "The promises of your bread man are worth nothing," said Doris venomously. "Ask Hope. Ask your own family." It was then that Hope made a decision that would change everything. "Clara is going to stay with me tonight," she announced. I have authorization as the social worker responsible for the case, and my house has been approved as an emergency foster home." "With you?" asked Teddy, surprised. "With me, and tomorrow we're going to sit down all the responsible adults and decide what's best for her. Including you, Mikey, since you apparently have opinions about the situation." Clara looked at Hope, then at Teddy. "Can I trust her?" "You can," said Teddy. "Hope is a good person. She's going to take good care of you." "And are you going to visit me?" "If Hope allows it, yes." Hope nodded. "You can visit." As Hope took Clara to her car, the girl waved to Teddy from the back window. He waved back, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he had just made a promise that he might not be able to keep, especially when Doris approached him with a cruel smile. "You think you won, Teddy? You think you're going to form a happy family with Hope and use my granddaughter as glue to unite the shards of your past? It's not about that. Of course it is. But I have news for you. Tomorrow, all of Harmony Creek will know exactly what kind of man you are. And when that happens, neither Hope nor any judge will trust a child in your care." With that whispered threat, Doris walked away, leaving the two brothers alone in the darkness of the Pennsylvania night. The next morning, Teddy woke up to the sound of raised voices in the street. When he looked out the window, he saw a small group of neighbors talking in front of Doris's house, gesturing and occasionally pointing in the direction of his house. His heart raced when he recognized some familiar faces from his childhood, all with disapproving expressions. He dressed quickly and went out to find out what was happening. Mrs. Olson, the family's old neighbor, was the first to see him. "Theodore Vasconcelos, shame on you," she said, shaking her head. "I thought you had changed, but it looks like you're still the same." "Mrs. Olson, what are you talking about?" "As if you didn't know. The whole town already knows what you did to poor Hope, and now you want to use the orphaned girl to cleanse your conscience." Teddy felt his stomach sink. Doris had kept her threat. "You only know one side of the story." "Do I? Then tell me the other side. Tell me how you left Hope pregnant and ran away like a coward. How your daughter died while you were in New York City living the good life." Mrs. Olson's words echoed through the street, and Teddy realized that other people had stopped to listen. In a matter of minutes, there would be a crowd there. "Mrs. Olson, it's not like that." "Isn't it? Then how is it? Doris told us everything. How you got the girl pregnant and abandoned her. How you came back rich thinking that money would solve everything." Teddy tried to explain himself, but he realized that it was useless. In small towns, stories took on a life of their own, and Doris's version had already spread like wildfire. He went back home and called Hope. She answered on the third ring, and her voice sounded tired. "Hope, I need to warn you. Doris spread the whole story around town. People are outraged." "I know. I've already received 5 calls this morning. People wanting to know if it's true that I'm conspiring with you to adopt Clara." "And Clara? How is she?" "Confused. She doesn't understand why people are talking about us. She asked if she did something wrong." "Poor thing. Hope, maybe I should step away from the situation. My presence is only complicating things." "Maybe you should." The coldness in her voice caught him off guard. "Hope. Teddy, Clara has become attached to you in a worrying way. She sees you as a savior, as someone who is going to solve all her problems. That's not healthy. But I really want to help. Wanting isn't enough. You have to prove that you can stay, that you can commit for real. And with the whole town against you, that's going to be impossible." At that moment, Teddy heard knocking on the door. When he opened the door, he found Mikey on the doorstep, but his brother wasn't alone. There was a man in a suit he didn't recognize. "Teddy, this is Mr. Abernathy, a lawyer. I'm here to formalize the division of the inheritance." "Mikey, this isn't the best time." "It's the perfect time. With all this scandal, the family reputation is already ruined. At least let's settle the practical matters." Mr. Abernathy entered and opened a briefcase. "Mr. Vasconcelos, your brother has the legal right to contest the way the inheritance is being handled. He claims he was overlooked in the process." I didn't overlook anyone. Yes, you did, Mikey said bitterly. Just like you overlooked our mother, just like you overlooked Hope, just like you'll overlook this child when you get tired of playing father. I'm not playing. Aren't you? Then answer me this. When you saw Clara for the first time, what did you feel? Teddy hesitated. I felt like I needed to help her. Liar. You felt guilt. You saw a chance to redeem yourself for what you did to Hope, for what you did to us. That girl is just a charity project for you. Mikey's words echoed Hope's, and Teddy began to question his own motivations. Even if that were true, that doesn't mean I can't take good care of her. Can you? Have you thought about what's going to happen when you have to go back to New York City? Your businesses are there, your life is there. Are you going to drag the girl into a world she doesn't know? Or are you going to leave her here and visit on weekends? Teddy had no answer for that. Mr. Abernathy seized the silence. Gentlemen, I suggest we settle the inheritance issues first. Personal matters can wait. Over the next hour, Teddy discovered that Mikey was right about many things. He really had taken control of the inheritance without consulting his brother. He really had made unilateral decisions, as he always did. Mikey, I'm sorry. You're right. I should have consulted you. You should have done a lot of different things, Teddy, but you never did. And now you want me to believe you've changed? I do, and I'll prove it. How? I'll stay in Harmony Creek. I'll transfer my businesses here, or at least a good part of them. I'll show you I can commit. Mikey laughed without humor. And when your businesses start losing money because you're not there supervising, when you find out that a small town doesn't offer the opportunities you're used to, you'll leave again. At that moment, Teddy's phone rang. It was Hope, and her voice was strained. Teddy, you need to come here now. Something happened to Clara. What is it? She tried to run away. She said she wants to leave Harmony Creek, that she doesn't want to cause problems for anyone anymore. I'm coming. Teddy stood up, but Mikey grabbed his arm. See? Not even a day, and the child is already having problems because of you. Mikey, go ahead, Teddy. Go solve yet another problem you created. But when you inevitably leave, remember that you destroyed the life of yet another child. Teddy ran out of the house, leaving Mikey and Mr. Abernathy behind. As he drove to Hope's house, his mind was racing with doubts. Was everyone right? Was he really using Clara to try to redeem himself? And if he was that necessarily a bad thing if the result was good for her? When he arrived at Hope's house, he found Clara sitting on the living room couch, her eyes red from crying. Hope was beside her, trying to console her. Clara, what happened? Teddy asked, kneeling in front of her. People are saying bad things about you because of me, she sobbed. Mrs. Olson said you're a bad man, that you hurt people and then leave. Clara, is it true? Are you bad? Are you going to leave and leave me all alone? Teddy looked at Hope, who was watching him with an unreadable expression. Clara, sometimes adults do the wrong things. I've done wrong things in the past. I hurt people I loved. Then you're bad. I'm not bad, but I've made mistakes, and I'm trying to fix those mistakes. Fixing them with me? The question, asked with the brutal innocence of a 6-year-old, cut Teddy's heart. No, honey, I'm not trying to fix myself through you. I'm trying to take care of you because you deserve to be taken care of. But everyone is angry. Everyone is confused, just like I'm confused sometimes. Clara looked at him with her piercing blue eyes. Mr. Breadman, can I ask you a hard question? You can. If I was ugly, if I was a boring girl that nobody likes, would you still want to take care of me? The question echoed exactly what Grandma Doris had asked in the hospital. Teddy realized he was being tested by a 6-year-old, and that his answer would determine not only Clara's future, but his own redemption. Yes, he said finally, because every child deserves to be loved and protected, regardless of what they're like. Even if I wet the bed, even if I cry a lot, even if I'm difficult, especially if you're difficult. Because difficult children are the ones who need love the most. Clara studied him for a long moment, then threw herself into his arms. I want to stay with you and Aunt Hope. Can you be my family? Teddy looked at Hope over Clara's head. In her eyes, he saw something he hadn't seen in 15 years. Hope. Clara, Hope said softly, family is a complicated thing for adults. But what I can promise you is that we're going to take care of you no matter what. Do you really promise? We promise, Teddy said, and for the first time he was sure it was a promise he could keep. But outside, Grandma Doris was watching Hope's house from afar, and her next move would be even more devastating. 3 days later, when Teddy thought the situation was calming down, Grandma Doris executed her most cruel blow. On Friday morning, he was awakened by insistent knocking on the door. When he opened it, he found Dr. Miller, the hospital doctor, with a grave expression on his face. Dr. Miller, has something happened to Clara? Indirectly, yes. Can I come in? I need to talk to you about something very serious. Teddy led him to the living room, a cold feeling in his stomach growing every second. Teddy, I received a very disturbing call last night. Someone made an anonymous complaint alleging that you have inappropriate intentions with regard to Clara. Teddy's world collapsed. What do you mean? The person claimed that you are approaching the child with motivations that go beyond humanitarian aid, that you are showing inappropriate interest in a 6-year-old girl. That's absurd, monstrous. Who would make such an accusation? It was anonymous, but the person seemed to know details about your routine. They knew that you visited Clara at night, that you gave her gifts, that she slept here once. Teddy stood up abruptly, running his hands through his hair. Dr. Miller, you know me. You know what kind of person I am. I know the boy you were, Teddy, not the man you've become, and unfortunately I have to take this complaint seriously. But it's a lie, a cruel and calculated lie. Maybe, but until it's investigated, you can no longer have contact with Clara. It's for her sake and yours. Teddy sat down heavily in the armchair. Doctor, this child trusts me. If I disappear from her life without explanation, she'll think she did something wrong. I understand your concern, but my hands are tied. The complaint has already been forwarded to the competent authorities. After Dr. Miller left, Teddy immediately called Hope. She answered on the first ring, as if she were expecting the call. Teddy, I know, Doctor. Miller already called me. Hope, you know this is a lie. I know, but the accusation has been made, and now we have to deal with the consequences. How is Clara reacting? Devastated. She doesn't understand why you can't see her anymore. She keeps asking if she did something wrong. My God, who would be capable of such evil? 3 people knew the details mentioned in the complaint. You, me, and Grandma Doris. Grandma Doris? Of course it was her. Probably. But we can't prove it. Teddy headed straight to Grandma Doris's house, rage boiling in his veins. He found her in the yard, hanging clothes on the clothesline, whistling as if nothing had happened. Grandma Doris! She turned around with an innocent smile. Teddy, what a surprise! I heard you're having some little problems. It was you. You made that disgusting complaint. Complaint? What complaint? I don't know what you're talking about. Grandma Doris hung up another piece of clothing before answering. Teddy, people talk. When a single 50-year-old man takes so much interest in a little child, people start wondering about his motivations. You know there's nothing inappropriate about my interest in Clara, do I? A man who abandons his own family, who gets a woman pregnant and runs away, who has never shown any interest in children before, suddenly becomes obsessed with an orphaned girl. I'm trying to help her, or you're trying to feel better about yourself, and when a vulnerable child is involved, people get suspicious. Teddy took a step forward, his fists clenched. You destroyed an innocent child with this lie. I protected an innocent child from a man with a history of abandonment. The difference is a matter of perspective. Grandma Doris, for God's sake, Clara is your granddaughter. How can you use her as a weapon? How can you use her as redemption? The question hit Teddy hard. It's not about redemption. Of course it is. You lost a daughter you never knew, so you want to save Clara to feel better. But what about when the novelty wears off? When you realize that taking care of a child is difficult, exhausting, expensive? That's not going to happen, won't it? Teddy, you're 52 years old. You have no experience with children. You don't have the patience for the special needs that Clara is going to have because of the trauma. When she wakes up screaming at night, when she throws tantrums, when she needs expensive therapy and constant attention, are you still going to think she's a good cause? Teddy was silent. Grandma Doris had touched on fears that he himself had, but didn't dare admit. See, she continued, you can't even answer because you know it's true. You want to be the hero, but you don't want to pay the price of being a father. You're wrong. Am I? Then why haven't you formalized an adoption request yet? Why haven't you sold your businesses in New York City and moved to Harmony Creek permanently? Why is all your help temporary, conditional? Teddy tried to answer but realized he had no arguments. Teddy, Grandma Doris said, her voice becoming almost gentle, I know you think you want to help. But Clara has already suffered enough abandonment. Don't let her get more attached to you if you're not absolutely sure you're going to stay. That afternoon, Teddy met with Mikey at the courthouse to finalize the division of the inheritance. His brother immediately noticed his dejected state. I heard about the complaint, Mikey said. Small town news travels fast. It's a lie, I know. You have many flaws, Teddy, but that's not one of them. The unexpected show of support from his brother caught him off guard. Thanks. But, Mikey continued, maybe it's a sign. A sign of what? That you're getting involved in something bigger than you can control. Teddy, you saw what happened to Hope when you left. She destroyed herself. It took years for her to recover. I know. And now you're doing the same thing to a child. You're creating expectations, bonds, emotional dependence. What if you can't fulfill what you're promising? I will fulfill it. Like you promised to stay with Hope? Like you promised to take care of our mother? Teddy signed the inheritance papers in silence, each of Mikey's words echoing in his mind. Mikey, what if I really have changed? What if this time is different? Then prove it. Not to me, not to Hope, not to Clara. Prove it to yourself. How? Make a final decision. Stay or leave, but stop being in this middle ground that hurts everyone. That night, Teddy received a call from Hope. Her voice was choked with tears. Teddy, Clara is in the hospital. What? What happened? She tried to hurt herself. She grabbed a pair of scissors and cut her own arm. Teddy's world spun. What do you mean? She said that if she didn't exist anymore, everyone would stop fighting. That it's her fault for causing all these problems. Hope, I'm going. No, you can't come. The no-contact order is still in effect. But she needs to know that it's not her fault. I've already told her that. But she doesn't believe me. She thinks you stopped liking her because she did something wrong. Teddy leaned against the wall, feeling like the world was collapsing around him. Hope, what do I do? Decide what's more important, your pride or Clara's well-being. What do you mean? If you're not absolutely sure that you can commit to her forever, it's better to walk away now, before she gets hurt more. What if I am sure? Then fight, regardless of what it costs, regardless of who accuses you of what. Fight for her like you should have fought for our daughter. The call ended, leaving Teddy alone with the most important decision of his life, to continue fighting for Clara or to step aside to protect her from further suffering. And in the hospital, a 6-year-old girl cried alone, thinking that once again she had been abandoned by someone who promised to take care of her. Teddy spent the whole night awake, sitting on his mother's porch, looking at the stars over Harmony Creek. For the first time in 15 years, he wasn't thinking about business, profits, or business strategies. He was thinking about a 6-year-old girl who thought the world would be better without her. At dawn, he made a decision that would change his life forever. At 7 in the morning, he was at the door of his lawyer's office in New York City, Mr. Robert Mendez, who had come especially to meet him in Harmony Creek. "Robert, I want you to prepare all the documents to transfer the company headquarters to Pennsylvania." Mr. Mendez almost spilled his coffee. "Teddy, are you sure? That's going to cost a fortune, and your main clients are in New York City." "I'm sure. And I also want you to prepare the documentation for an adoption process." "Adoption? A 6-year-old girl. Clara Johnson." "Teddy, an adoption is a permanent commitment. You—" "Thought this through. I thought about it all night. And for the first time in a long time, I'm absolutely sure of something. What about the complaint that's circulating about you? We'll prove it's false. Hire investigators, gather witnesses, do whatever it takes." Mr. Mendez studied his friend's face. "What changed, Teddy?" "I changed. I discovered that some things are more important than financial success or reputation. And one of them is in a hospital believing she's worthless." 2 hours later, Teddy was at the Harmony Creek police station, sitting in front of Chief Marcos Ferreira, a 50-year-old man who had known the Vasconcelos family for decades. "Chief, I'm here to demand a full investigation into the false complaint that was made against me. Teddy, you know I can't discuss details of ongoing investigations. Then I'll make your job easier. I'm sure the complaint was made by Grandma Doris Johnson, and I can prove it." "How?" "First, only 3 people knew the details mentioned in the complaint: me, Hope Moretti, and Grandma Doris. Second, Grandma Doris has threatened me publicly several times. Third, she has personal reasons for wanting to hurt me." Chief Ferreira made some notes. "What reasons?" "She was my teacher when I was a child, and according to her own confession, she developed inappropriate feelings for me when I grew up. When I left Harmony Creek, she felt rejected." "That's a serious accusation, Teddy." "It's a necessary truth. Chief, an innocent child is suffering because of this lie. She tried to hurt herself yesterday because she thinks she's to blame for everything that's happening." "And you're sure your intentions towards the child are appropriate?" Teddy looked directly into the chief's eyes. "My intentions are those of a man who wants to be a father, a man who wants to give an orphaned child the love and stability she deserves." "Father? Are you talking about official adoption?" "I am. I've already started the legal process." Chief Ferreira leaned back in his chair. "That changes things. If you're willing to commit legally—" "I am. Completely." Meanwhile, at the hospital, Hope was by Clara's bedside, who had spent the night sedated after the self-harm episode. The girl woke up slowly, confused. "Aunt Hope? Hi, honey. How are you feeling?" "Dizzy, and my arm hurts." Hope gently held Clara's hand. "Clara, do you remember what happened yesterday?" The girl's eyes filled with tears. "I did a very bad thing." "Why did you do that, my dear?" "Because I ruin everything. Grandma Doris was right. I'm a jinx. Because of me, Mr. Breadman is in trouble. Because of me, you're sad." "Clara, look at me," Hope said firmly. "You're not a jinx. You're a wonderful girl who has been through very difficult things." "Then why doesn't Mr. Breadman come to see me anymore?" Hope hesitated. How to explain the complexities of the situation to a 6-year-old? Some people lied about him. They said things that weren't true. And now he needs to prove that the lies are lies. Will he succeed? "I think so. But Clara, I need to ask you something very important." "What?" "If you could choose a family to live with forever, what would that family be like?" Clara thought for a moment. "It would be a family that doesn't yell at me, that lets me eat when I'm hungry, that likes my drawings. And the people in that family, what would they be like? One would be Mr. Breadman because he's good and makes me laugh, and another would be you because you're kind and don't hurt me." Hope's heart ached. "Clara, would you like Teddy and me to be your family?" The girl's eyes widened. "Can you be?" "Maybe, but it would be forever." Do you understand what forever means? It means you'll never leave me, even if I wet the bed or break something. Even then. And you'll love me even if I cry a lot or get sick, especially when you cry or get sick. Clara was quiet for a long time. Then she whispered, I really want a forever family. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. Mikey appeared at the hospital asking to speak with Hope. She met him in the hallway, surprised. Mikey? What are you doing here? I came to apologize and to offer help. Apologize for what? For being so hard on Teddy. I was angry for so long that I couldn't see that he really changed. What made you realize that? Two things. First, he contacted me earlier today and apologized for everything. He not only apologized, but he took full responsibility for the mistakes he made. Second, I heard that he's transferring the company here and starting an adoption process. Hope was speechless. He's going to transfer the company? Everything. Headquarters, employees, investments. He's going to lose a lot of money in the process, but he said he doesn't care. And why did you come to tell me this? Because I want to help. With the child, with the adoption process, with whatever is needed. Why? Mikey sighed. Because maybe it's time for me to stop living in the past too, and because this girl needs a family, not adults fighting over nonsense. At that moment, Dr. Miller appeared in the hallway with a relieved expression. Hope, I have news about the complaint against Teddy. What news? The chief was able to prove that it was made by Grandma Doris Johnson. They found inconsistencies in her version, and she ended up confessing when confronted with the evidence. She confessed. She confessed everything. The false complaint, the threats, even the embezzlement of Clara's pension money. She's being indicted on several charges. Hope felt immense relief. Does that mean Teddy can see Clara again? He can. In fact, the chief asked me to tell you that he's coming here. He wants to talk to you about the girl's future. Half an hour later, Teddy arrived at the hospital, accompanied by Chief Marcos and Mr. Mendez. When they entered Clara's room, the girl was awake, playing with some drawings that Hope had brought. Mr. Breadman, she cried, trying to get out of bed. Hi, honey, Teddy said, approaching slowly. How are you? Better. Aunt Hope said you didn't do anything wrong, that someone lied about you. That's right. And you know what else? What? Now I can ask you a very important question. Clara looked at him curiously. Would you like Hope and me to be your parents? Forever? The girl's eyes filled with tears, but this time they were tears of joy. Really forever? Even when I grow up and get ugly? You'll never get ugly. And yes, forever. And will you love me? We already do, Hope said, joining them. Clara looked from one to the other, then reached out her arms to hug them both at the same time. Then I do want to be your daughter. Chief Marcos smiled. Well, that makes things a lot easier. Mr. Mendez, the adoption papers can be officially started. They're already being prepared, the lawyer replied. Mikey, who had watched everything from the door, approached. Clara, I'm Uncle Mikey, your future dad's brother. Hi, Uncle Mikey. Are you nice too? I hope so. And I hope you like cookies, because I'm going to teach you how to make the best cookies in Harmony Creek. For the first time in months, Clara laughed, a loud, free, truly happy child's laugh. But outside the hospital, looking through the window, a figure watched the scene with hatred. Grandma Doris Johnson hadn't finished trying to destroy the happiness that she herself had never managed to find. A week after Grandma Doris's confession, when everyone thought the worst was over, she managed to leave the police station on bail. Her first move was direct and devastating. She sought out a lawyer in Harrisburg specializing in contesting adoptions. Teddy found out when Mr. Mendez called him on a Tuesday morning, his voice tense. Teddy, we have a problem. Grandma Doris Johnson got a lawyer and is contesting the adoption process. On what basis? She confessed to making a false complaint. She's claiming that she was coerced into confessing and that the confession was made under psychological pressure. Furthermore, she's questioning your ability to care for Clara. My ability. She's using your history of family abandonment as evidence that you're not fit to be an adoptive father. And there's more. She found out about Hope's cancer. Teddy's blood ran cold. What cancer? Didn't you know? Hope has been in treatment for breast cancer for 6 months. She's in remission, but Grandma Doris is using that to argue that you can't offer long-term stability for Clara. Teddy hung up the phone in shock. Hope had cancer and hadn't told him. He ran to her house, where he found Clara playing in the yard while Hope watched from the porch. "Hope, I need to talk to you." Alone. She realized from his tone that it was serious. "Clara, honey, keep playing. I'm going to talk to Daddy Teddy for a minute." They went inside the house, and Teddy got straight to the point. "Why didn't you tell me about the cancer?" Hope stopped, surprised. "How did you find out?" "Grandma Doris is using that information to contest the adoption." "Hope, how could you hide something like that?" "Because I didn't want you to stay with me out of pity, or to give up the adoption out of fear." "Pity? Hope, I love you. I've always loved you. And you think I would take care of you out of pity? You never said you loved me, because I thought it was obvious, after everything we've been through, after deciding to form a family together." Hope sat down heavily on the couch. "Teddy, my cancer is in remission, but there are no guarantees. There's a possibility that it will come back. So what? Do you think that changes anything?" "It changes everything. Clara has already lost 2 parents. How can I guarantee that she won't lose a 3rd mother? You can't guarantee, just like I can't guarantee that I won't have an accident or that I won't get sick. Nobody can guarantee the future, Hope. But the odds don't matter. What matters is that we have today, and today I want to be with you and Clara, no matter what happens tomorrow." Hope started to cry. "Teddy, I'm so scared." "Scared of what?" "Of dying and leaving you, of Clara suffering another loss, of you having to raise her alone." Teddy knelt in front of her. "Hope, look at me. If something happens to you, I'm going to take care of Clara with all the love in the world. And if something happens to me, I know you'll do the same. That's what families do. Protect each other." At that moment, Clara ran into the room. "Why is Mommy Hope crying?" "Because sometimes adults get scared of silly things," Teddy said, hugging them both. "Scared of what?" "Scared of not being good parents for you." Clara looked at them seriously. "You're already the best parents in the world. Even when you're sad or scared, I still love you." The girl's simple words touched the 2 adults deeply. "Clara," Hope said, "if Mommy got sick, would you be scared?" "I would. But Daddy Teddy would take care of both of us, right?" "Of course," Teddy replied. "And if Daddy Teddy got sick?" "Then I would take care of you," Hope said. "See? It's easy. Family takes care of each other." 2 days later, they were at the Harmony Creek courthouse for the contestation hearing filed by Grandma Doris. The prosecuting attorney, Mr. Silver, had requested a psychological evaluation of everyone involved, including Clara. Grandma Doris arrived accompanied by her new lawyer, Mr. Armando Rice, an aggressive-looking man who had clearly come from Harrisburg to win the case at any cost. "Your Honor," Mr. Rice said, addressing the judge, "my client claims that she was the victim of a conspiracy to take her granddaughter away from her. Mr. Theodore Vasconcelos has a proven history of family abandonment, and Mrs. Hope Moretti has a serious illness that may leave her unable to care for a child." "Mr. Rice," replied Mr. Mendez, "my client has already taken full responsibility for the mistakes of the past and has taken concrete steps to prove his change. He transferred his company to Harmony Creek, invested in the community, and demonstrated real commitment to the child." "Temporary commitment," retorted Mr. Rice. "He can change his mind at any moment and return to New York City." "I sold my house in New York City," Teddy said, standing up. "I transferred all my businesses. There's no turning back." "What about Mrs. Hope's cancer? How can you guarantee stability for the child?" "No one can guarantee absolute stability," Hope replied. But I can guarantee unconditional love. The judge, Mrs. Marcia Oliveira, a 60-year-old woman with experience in family cases, looked at Grandma Doris. Mrs. Johnson, you confessed to making a false complaint against Mr. Theodore. How do you explain that? I was confused, Your Honor. I was drinking a lot. I wasn't thinking straight. But I know I can take care of my granddaughter. You embezzled the child's pension money to buy alcohol. How does that demonstrate an ability to care? Grandma Doris hesitated. Those were isolated mistakes. I can improve. Mrs. Johnson, the hospital reports contain multiple pieces of evidence of mistreatment, neglect, and psychological trauma. The child tried to self-harm because she felt guilty about the adult's conflicts. These are not isolated mistakes. At that moment, Mr. Silva brought the result of Clara's psychological evaluation. Your Honor, the child was evaluated by our specialized psychologist. She demonstrates healthy bonds with Mr. Theodore and Mrs. Hope and extreme fear in relation to the grandmother. When asked about whom she would like to live with, she was categorical. She wants to stay with her heart parents. And about the capacity of the prospective adoptive parents? Mr. Theodore demonstrates emotional maturity and real commitment. Mrs. Hope, despite her medical history, presents psychological stability and is in complete remission. Both have the financial and emotional resources to adequately care for the child. Mr. Rice tried one last resort. Your Honor, my client is the closest biological relative. That should count for something. Biological kinship is not a guarantee of parental capacity, the judge replied. And in the present case, we have abundant evidence that biological custody resulted in trauma, significant harm to the child. The hearing was adjourned so that the judge could deliberate. During the break, Grandma Doris approached Teddy and Hope. You think you've won, she said with venom in her voice, but I know you better than you know yourselves. Teddy, when the novelty wears off, when you realize that being a father is difficult, you'll want your old life back. And Hope, when the cancer comes back, and it will come back, you'll freak out and won't be able to take care of anyone. Grandma Doris, Hope said calmly, you've done enough harm. To Clara, to us, to yourself. Don't you think it's time to stop? Stop. I lost everything because of you, my job, my dignity, my family. You lost everything because of your own choices, Teddy said, and you still have a chance to recover something if you seek help. Help? I don't need help. I need my granddaughter. You need treatment for alcoholism and psychological counseling, Hope said. Clara is not your property. She's a child who deserves to be happy. When the hearing resumed, the judge gave her decision. After analyzing all the evidence and testimonies, I grant the adoption petition in favor of Theodore Vasconcelos and Hope Moretti. The child, Clara Johnson, will now be called Clara Vasconcelos Moretti and will have all the rights of a legitimate daughter of the petitioners. The relief that washed over Teddy and Hope was indescribable. But when they looked at Grandma Doris, they saw a completely destroyed woman. Mrs. Johnson, the judge said, you will be entitled to monthly supervised visits conditioned on participation in treatment for chemical dependency and psychological counseling. Grandma Doris stood up unsteadily. Supervised visits? She's my granddaughter. She was your granddaughter. Now she's the legal daughter of other people, and that decision is final. When they left the courthouse, Clara was waiting for them at Mikey's house, eager to know the result. So, can I stay with you? Forever, Teddy said, picking her up in his arms. Now we're a real family for real. For real, Hope confirmed. But as they celebrated, none of them noticed Grandma Doris watching from afar, her eyes gleaming with a dangerous determination. If she couldn't have Clara back, she would make sure that no one else could have her either. 2 weeks after the court decision, when the family was finally adapting to their new reality, Grandma Doris executed her most desperate plan. It was a Thursday morning when Teddy received a call that would change everything once again. Mr. Vasconcelos. The voice on the other end of the line was nervous. This is Danny from Danny's bar. Grandma Doris has been here since last night drinking non-stop. She's saying strange things about the girl. What kind of things? She says that if she can't have her granddaughter, no one can. And she's messing with some papers she brought in a briefcase. It looks like important stuff. Teddy felt a chill. Danny, don't let her leave there. I'm on my way. When he arrived at the bar, he found Grandma Doris at a table in the corner, surrounded by empty bottles and scattered papers. She raised her red eyes when she saw him. Look who showed up. The father of the year. Grandma Doris, what are you doing? Discovering truths, Teddy, truths that will destroy your happy family. Teddy approached and saw that the papers were old documents, birth certificates, medical records, newspaper clippings. What truths are these? Sit down. I'm going to tell you a story you don't know. Teddy hesitated but sat down. Whatever Grandma Doris was planning, it was better to know before she executed it. You think you know Clara's story, don't you? Parents died in an accident. She was orphaned. I took care of her poorly. Simple story. Isn't that it? No. Grandma Doris picked up a birth certificate. Johnny Johnson was not Clara's biological father. Teddy's heart stopped. What do you mean? Lucy, Clara's mother, had a relationship before marrying Johnny. A relationship with an older married man who abandoned her when he found out she was pregnant. Who was this man? Grandma Doris smiled cruelly. Guess. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you? Then let me refresh your memory. She picked up an old photo. Remember this photo? School spring fair. You were 20 years old. You were already dating Hope. Teddy recognized the photo. It was from the last school fair he had attended before going to New York City. And do you know who this girl is here? Grandma Doris pointed to a teenager in the photo. Lucy Johnson, 15 years old at the time. Grandma Doris, what are you insinuating? I'm not insinuating. I'm stating. You had an affair with Lucy Johnson when she was underage. She got pregnant, you fled to New York City, and she married Johnny to give the child a father. Teddy felt the world spin. That's a lie. Is it? Then explain this here. Grandma Doris showed a DNA test. I had it done when Clara was born. I wanted to make sure that Johnny was really the father. Teddy took the paper with trembling hands. The result showed a 99.7% probability that he was Clara's biological father. This is impossible. It's very possible. And you know what else? Lucy contacted me a few years later and confessed everything. She said she never forgot you, that Clara had your eyes, your ways. Why are you telling me this now? Because now you can choose. Either you tell the truth to Hope and to the world, that you're raising your own biological daughter, the result of a relationship with a minor, or what? Or you disappear from Harmony Creek forever and leave Clara with me. Teddy looked at the documents, trying to process the information. If it were true, it would change everything. Clara was not just a child he had decided to help. She was his biological daughter. Grandma Doris, even if this is true, it doesn't change anything. Clara needs care, and you can't offer that. It doesn't change anything. Teddy, you had relations with a minor. That's a crime. And when everyone finds out... Lucy was never a minor when we were together, said a voice behind them. Teddy turned and saw Hope standing at the entrance to the bar with an expression he couldn't decipher. Hope, how did you... Danny called me after talking to you. And I came because I needed to hear this in person. Grandma Doris stood up unsteadily. Hope, I'm glad you came. Now you can know what kind of man you're about to marry. I know exactly what kind of man he is, Hope replied calmly. And I also know that Lucy Johnson was never a minor when she was with Teddy. How can you be sure? Because I was her friend. Because I knew about the relationship. And because she was 19 years old, not 15. Grandma Doris was confused. But the birth certificate, It's fake, Hope said, approaching. Lucy told me that she faked her age to get a job when she was younger. In fact, she was 4 years older than she claimed. That's a lie. It's not. And do you know how I'm sure? Hope picked up a folder she had brought. Because after Teddy left, Lucy contacted me. She was pregnant and scared. I helped her find Johnny, who agreed to marry her and take on the child. Teddy looked at Hope, shocked. You knew? You always knew that Clara was my daughter? I suspected it. When I saw her for the first time, the resemblance was obvious. But I was only sure when Grandma Doris started making these accusations, and I went to investigate. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because it didn't matter. Teddy, you fell in love with Clara before you knew she was your biological daughter. You chose to love her and protect her for who she is, not because of kinship. Grandma Doris looked from one to the other, realizing that her plan was collapsing. You knew everything? Not everything, Hope said, but enough to know that you're lying about the ages and circumstances. But the DNA? It may be real, Teddy said. And if it is, I'm happy to know that Clara is my biological daughter. But that doesn't change the fact that you mistreated her for years. Grandma Doris sat down heavily, all her weapons neutralized. You ruined my life, she murmured. Grandma Doris, Hope said gently, you ruined your own life, but you can still rebuild it. You can seek help, get treated, maybe one day have a healthy relationship with Clara. She'll never forgive me. Children forgive more easily than adults, but first you need to forgive yourself and seek help. Teddy stood up. Grandma Doris, I'm going to make a proposal. We'll pay for your rehabilitation treatment. We'll help you get back on your feet. In exchange, you stop trying to destroy our family. Why would you do that? Because it's the right thing to do, and because Clara deserves to have a healthy grandmother in her life if you can become that person. Grandma Doris looked at them for a long moment, then began to cry. I loved you both so much when you were young, and you never noticed me. Grandma Doris, Hope said, you were our teacher. You represented authority and wisdom. It wasn't appropriate for you to develop romantic feelings for students. I know. I always knew it was wrong. But when you grew up, when you fell in love with each other, you felt rejected, Teddy completed. And you held on to that pain for 15 years, letting it turn into bitterness. And I used an innocent child to get revenge, Grandma Doris admitted. My God, what have I done? At that moment, Clara ran into the bar, followed by Mikey. Daddy! Mommy! You disappeared! We're here, honey, Hope said, picking her up in her arms. Clara looked at Grandma Doris, who was crying. Grandma Doris, why are you sad? Because I did very wrong things, Clara, and now I'm ashamed. Everyone does wrong things sometimes, Clara said with her childish wisdom. But then we say sorry and try to do better. Grandma Doris looked at her granddaughter, seeing for the first time not a burden or a tool for revenge, but an extraordinary child who deserved all the love in the world. Do you forgive me, Clara? Only if you stop drinking that bad stuff and stop being mad at me. I promise I'll try. Then I forgive you. And at that moment, in the simplest bar in Harmony Creek, a complicated family began finally to find its way to healing. 6 months after the revelation at the bar, life in Harmony Creek had found a new rhythm. Teddy had successfully transferred his company to the town, creating local jobs and revitalizing the regional economy. Hope continued her cancer treatment, which remained in remission, and had been promoted to Regional Social Welfare Coordinator. Clara, now officially Clara Vasconcelos Moretti, attended the local school where Grandma Doris had taught for so many years. She was one of the most beloved students, known for her creativity in making sculptures with clay, a skill she had developed from her old game with pottery shards. On this special Saturday morning, the whole family was preparing for an event that would mark a new chapter in their lives, the wedding of Teddy and Hope. "Daddy, you look handsome," Clara said, adjusting her father's tie in the room that was now hers in the new house they had bought together. "Thank you, Princess. And you look beautiful too. Clara wore a light blue dress, chosen especially to match her eyes. Her hair, now always well cared for, was tied in a delicate hairstyle made by Hope. "Daddy, can I ask you something?" "Sure. When you and Mommy get married today, will I be more of your daughter than I already am?" Teddy knelt in front of her. "There's no such thing as more of a daughter, Clara. You're already our daughter completely. The wedding just means that Mommy and I promise to stay together forever, to take care of each other and you. Like a real family for real. Like a real family for real." On the other side of town, at Hope's house, she was getting ready with the help of some friends. In front of the mirror, she watched her own image. Her hair had grown back after chemotherapy, curlier than before, giving her a youthful look she hadn't had in years. "Hope, you're radiant," said Mrs. Olson, who had become one of the couple's biggest supporters after better understanding the situation. "Thank you. I never thought I would get married at 43. "Love has no age," said another friend, "and you deserve this happiness." Hope looked out the window and saw Mikey arriving with flowers to decorate the church. He had become a dedicated uncle to Clara and a true brother to Teddy, helping in everything that was needed. "Mrs. Moretti," said a hesitant voice at the door. She turned and saw Grandma Doris standing in the entrance holding a small package. The woman was visibly different, thinner but healthier, with clear eyes for the first time in years. "Grandma Doris, you came. I hope you don't mind. I know I don't deserve to be here, but I wanted to give you something." Grandma Doris had completed 3 months of rehabilitation at a private clinic, funded by Teddy and Hope. During that time, she had participated in individual and group therapy, facing not only alcoholism, but also the emotional traumas that had led her to become a bitter person. "Of course I don't mind. I'm so glad you came." Grandma Doris handed over the package with trembling hands. "It's for Clara. I made it in occupational therapy at the clinic." Hope opened it carefully. It was a ceramic doll, hand-painted, representing a girl with a blue dress and brown hair. The resemblance to Clara was undeniable. "Grandma Doris, it's beautiful. She'll love it. I wanted to apologize for everything, for the years of suffering I caused her to you. You've already apologized, and we've already forgiven you. But I need to say it again. Clara is a special child, and you are the parents she deserves. I could never see that because I was blinded by my own pain." "Grandma Doris, do you want to go to the church? I'm sure Clara would be happy to see you there." "Can I really?" "Of course. You're part of her story, and we want you to be part of the future too, in a healthy way." At the Harmony Creek Community Church, the people of the town gathered to celebrate the wedding that many had initially criticized, but that now recognized as a beautiful story of redemption and love. Clara walked down the central aisle, scattering rose petals with a radiant smile that illuminated the entire church. Behind her, Hope walked slowly, radiant in a simple but elegant dress. When she reached the altar, Teddy was waiting for her with tears in his eyes. Beside him was Mikey as best man, and beside Hope, Clara as her little maid of honor. Father Joseph, who had baptized Teddy as a child, led the ceremony with emotion. "Teddy, do you take Hope as your wife, to love her and respect her in joy and in sorrow, in health and in sickness, all the days of your life?" "I do." "Hope, do you take Teddy as your husband, to love him and respect him in joy and in sorrow, in health and in sickness, all the days of your life?" "I do." "And do you both together commit to loving and protecting Clara as your daughter, giving her a home full of love and security?" "Yes," they both replied at the same time. Clara clapped, making the whole church laugh with tenderness. After the exchange of rings and the kiss of the newlyweds, the family left the church under a shower of rice and petals. From the back of the church, Grandma Doris watched with tears in her eyes, but for the first time in years, they were tears of genuine joy. The party was simple, in the community school hall. Teddy had insisted that the whole town be invited. wanting everyone to be part of that moment of restarting. During the party, Clara approached Grandma Doris, who was sitting alone in a corner. "Grandma Doris, why aren't you dancing?" "Because I don't know if I should be here, honey." "Of course you should. You're my grandma." Clara took Grandma Doris's hand and led her to where Teddy and Hope were talking to other guests. "Daddy, Mommy, Grandma Doris brought me a present." Grandma Doris showed the ceramic doll, and Clara was delighted. "It's just like me." "Thank you, Grandma." "You're welcome, my dear. And I wanted to say that I'm very happy for you to be a family." Teddy extended his hand to Grandma Doris. "Thank you for being here. It means a lot to us. And it means everything to me. You gave me a second chance when I didn't deserve it." "Everyone deserves second chances," Hope said. "The important thing is what we do with them." Later, as the party was ending, the family gathered in the backyard of the new house. Clara played with her new doll while Teddy and Hope sat on the porch watching her. "Can you believe we made it this far?" Hope asked. "Sometimes it seems like a dream. A child who was suffering brought healing to all of us. Even to Grandma Doris. Especially to Grandma Doris. She's managing to rebuild her life." Clara approached running. "Daddy, Mommy, can I ask a question?" "Sure, honey. Now that we're a real family, can I have a little brother?" Teddy and Hope looked at each other and laughed. "Clara, don't you think we have enough adventure for now?" Hope joked. "But it would be nice to have someone to play with." "We'll talk about it later," Teddy said diplomatically. "Okay, but I do want one." As Clara went back to her games, Hope whispered to Teddy, "Actually, we've already talked about it with Dr. Miller. With my medical history, it would be risky, but not impossible. And would you like that?" "I would. And you?" "I'd love to give Clara a little brother." That night, when Clara was already sleeping in her room full of toys and drawings on the walls, Teddy and Hope sat in the kitchen to have tea. "Teddy, can I tell you a secret?" "Sure. Since I found out that Clara was your biological daughter, I keep thinking about how mysterious fate is." "How so?" "You lost a daughter you never knew, and you ended up finding another daughter who was always yours. I lost a daughter and gained another, and Clara lost a family and gained a new one. It's as if everything was part of a bigger plan." "Exactly. And you know what the most beautiful part is?" "What?" "None of us were looking for this family. It just happened when we decided to do the right thing." Teddy held Hope's hand. "I love you. I love you both more than I imagined possible. We love you too. And tomorrow we'll start our life together officially." From Clara's room came a low sound. She was humming the song that her biological mother sang to her years ago. But now it wasn't a song of longing. It was a song of joy. And in the yellow house where it all began, it was still possible to see through the window the drawings of birds that Clara had made on the walls when she was just a scared girl trying to dream of freedom. Now she didn't need to dream anymore. She had found her family, and her family had found her. A year after the wedding, on a sunny October morning, Clara ran through the yard of the house chasing butterflies, her laughter echoing through the property that had become a true home. At 7 years old, she had transformed into a vibrant child, full of life and curiosity about the world around her. "Daddy, Mummy, come see!" she shouted, pointing to something near the fence. Teddy and Hope came out of the house and found Clara crouching next to a small abandoned kitten, which meowed weakly among the plants. "Poor thing, it's all alone," Clara said, gently picking up the animal. "Can we take care of it?" "Clara, having a pet is a big responsibility," Hope said. "I know, but look how scared it is, just like I was when you found me." The comparison touched the two adults deeply. Teddy knelt next to his daughter. "If we're going to keep it, you're going to have to help take care of it. Give it food, water, clean its little house." "I promise, and I'll teach it not to be afraid of anything." "Then let's go to the vet to see how it is," Hope said, smiling. That afternoon, while they waited at the veterinary clinic, Clara held the kitten, which she had decided to call Courage, and talked quietly to it. "You know, Courage, before I was also alone and scared. But now I have a family that loves me very much." Dr. Abernathy, the veterinarian, examined the puppy and declared that it was healthy, just needing basic care. "This kitten was lucky to find you," he said to Clara. "Actually, we were the lucky ones," she replied with wisdom beyond her years. When they returned home, they found a surprise. Grandma Doris was on the porch, talking animatedly with Mikey. She visited the family regularly now, always sober, always trying to be the grandmother that Clara deserved. "Grandma Doris, look at my new friend," Clara said, showing the kitten. "How beautiful! And what name are you going to give it?" "Courage. Because it's going to learn to be courageous, just like I learned." Grandma Doris smiled tenderly. During the months of treatment, she had learned to see Clara not as the source of her frustrations, but as the extraordinary granddaughter she had always been. "Clara, can I tell you a secret?" Grandma Doris said. "You can. When I was little, I also found a lost kitten. And you know what my grandmother told me? What? That when we take care of someone more fragile than us, our heart gets bigger. Is it true?" "It is. And you already have such a big heart that everyone you love fits in it." That night, after Clara fell asleep with Courage by her side, Teddy and Hope sat on the porch to talk. It was something they did every night, a moment to connect and plan for the future. "You know what?" Hope said. "Sometimes I look at our life and I can't believe how everything fell into place." "Me too. Who would have thought that going back to Harmony Creek to settle an inheritance would change everything?" "It wasn't going back to Harmony Creek that changed everything. It was deciding to stay. It was choosing love instead of fear." Teddy held his wife's hand. "Hope, I have news." "What news?" "Remember you said you wanted to give Clara a little brother?" "I remember. Why?" "I talked to Dr. Miller about the possibility of adopting another child. There's a 4-year-old boy in the regional shelter who needs a family." Hope's eyes sparkled. "Really? His name is Gabriel. His parents died in an accident and he's been in the shelter for 6 months. Dr. Miller thinks it would be a good match for our family." "And you really want to?" "I do. Clara taught us that there's no limit to love. And if we can give another child what we gave her, then let's talk to Clara tomorrow." The next morning, during breakfast, they presented the idea to Clara, who was radiant with the possibility. "A little brother? Really? Really? But you'd have to share our attention with him," Teddy explained. "It's no problem. I can teach him to play, not to be afraid, to like cats. And if he's difficult at first. Children who have been through trauma are sometimes angry or sad. Then I'll be patient, just like you were with me when I was sad." A week later, they met Gabriel at the shelter. He was a shy boy with light hair and green eyes who hid behind the caregiver when strangers approached. "Hi, Gabriel," Clara said softly. "My name is Clara. Do you want to meet my kitten?" Gabriel nodded shyly, and Clara showed pictures of Courage on Hope's cell phone. "He was little and scared when we found him, just like you are now. But now he's happy because he has a family." "Do you have a family?" Gabriel asked in a small voice. "I do. And if you want, you can be our family too." During the following weeks, Gabriel began to visit the house regularly, first for a few hours, then for entire days, until he finally moved in permanently. In the beginning, as Clara had predicted, he was difficult. He threw tantrums, woke up crying at night, refused food, but the whole family worked together to help him adapt. "Gabriel, when I came to live here, I also sometimes wet the bed," Clara confessed one night when the boy was ashamed of an accident. "Daddy and Mommy never got angry. They just changed the sheet and gave me a hug." "Really?" "Really. And you know what else? Now I don't wet the bed anymore, and you won't either when you feel safe." 6 months after Gabriel's arrival, the family was complete. Clara had become a protective and caring older sister, Gabriel was flourishing with the love and attention he received, and Teddy and Hope discovered daily that the heart really has no limits to love. "Daddy," Clara said one afternoon while they were playing in the yard, "can I tell you a secret?" "Sure, princess." "Remember when I was little and I drew birds on the walls?" "I remember. I drew them trapped, sad, because that's how I felt. And now I draw them flying free and happy, because that's how I feel." "And how do you feel exactly?" Clara thought for a moment, watching Gabriel play with Courage, Teddy and Hope talking on the porch, and Mikey arriving for Sunday lunch. "I feel like I've found my place in the world, like I've always belonged here, with you." "You've always belonged here," Teddy said, hugging her. "It just took us a while to find each other." That night, while the whole family was gathered in the living room, Clara and Gabriel playing on the floor, Courage sleeping on the sofa, Teddy and Hope planning the following week, a feeling of completeness took over the atmosphere. "You know what's the most beautiful thing about all this?" Hope said to Teddy. "What?" "None of us were perfect when we started. You were afraid to commit, I was afraid to trust, Clara was afraid to love, Gabriel is afraid of being abandoned, even Grandma Doris was afraid of not being loved. And now we understand that families are not made of perfect people. They are made of people who choose to love each other despite the imperfections. And who never give up on each other," added Clara, who had overheard the conversation. "Exactly," said Gabriel, who was also paying attention. "Just like you never gave up on me, even when I broke your flower vase." "Real families never give up," Teddy confirmed. Later, when the children were asleep, Teddy went out to the porch and looked at the starry sky of Harmony Creek. It was the same sky he looked at as a child, but now he saw everything with different eyes. He thought about the journey that had brought him there, the ambitious boy who fled the town in search of success, the successful but empty man who returned years later, the discovery of Clara that changed everything, the challenges faced, the truths discovered, the love found. "Can't you sleep?" Hope asked, joining him. "I was thinking about how we got this far. And what conclusion did you come to? That sometimes we need to get completely lost to find our true path. And have you found yours?" Teddy looked inside the house, where two children slept safely, knowing that they were loved unconditionally. He looked at the woman beside him, who had given him a second chance to love and be loved. He thought of the brother he had forgiven, the former teacher who had found redemption, the town that had welcomed him back. "I have," he said. "I found my place in the world. And that place is here, with you. Forever? Forever." That night, while Harmony Creek slept under the starry sky of Pennsylvania, a family built with love, patience, and forgiveness rested peacefully, knowing that they had found what everyone is looking for, a place to belong, people to love, and the certainty that no matter what happens, they would never be alone again. And in the children's room, Clara dreamed of free birds flying over a town where all children had families who loved them, where all wounded hearts found healing, and where there was always room for more love, because that is the magic of real families. They grow not only in number, but in their capacity to love, proving that the human heart has no limits when it chooses love over fear, forgiveness over resentment, and hope over despair.